General Marcus Ellison had spent 42 years in the United States Army. He had commanded battalions, planned operations in foreign countries, and stared down crises that would have broken most men. He had earned medals, respect, and a reputation as one of the finest officers of his generation. Yet now, retired, he felt adrift. The silence of his suburban home was deafening. The hum of a washing machine, the ticking of the wall clock, the distant sound of children playing outside, they all seemed to mock him. After decades of orders, structure, and mission-focused living, he was suddenly a man with time but no purpose. In the mornings, he would brew black coffee and stare out at the neatly trimmed lawns of his neighborhood. He sometimes drove aimlessly, past veterans' memorials and local parks, wondering how he could continue to serve in a world that had moved on without him. One crisp autumn morning, Marcus decided to volunteer at the local Veterans Center. It was modest, with red brick walls and banners honoring past service members. He told himself it was about giving back, but deep down he needed to feel the pulse of military life again, even if only among civilians who had never worn the uniform. Samuel. Brooks worked at the center quietly, almost invisibly. He arrived early each day in a plain gray uniform, carrying a mop and a bucket, and left late in the evening, leaving the hallways spotless. No one really noticed him, and that suited him fine. Samuel was a man in his late 50s with a slight stoop from years of labor and a face that seemed carved by hardship. His hair was peppered with gray, his hands rough but steady. He spoke, little, greeting others with a polite nod or a soft good morning. He did not care for accolades, nor did he crave attention. What made Samuel extraordinary, though, was almost imperceptible at first glance. The way he folded flags, lined chairs, or arranged chairs during ceremonies carried a precision that could only come from deep experience. There was a rhythm, a respect, and a discipline in every movement. Marcus noticed it the first time he saw him. The folds crisp, the corners aligned perfectly, the way the flag was carried as if it were the most precious object in the world. It happened one quiet Tuesday morning. Marcus had arrived early, as usual, to check on the center and assist with organizing supplies for an upcoming Veterans Day event. The sunlight poured through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The smell of polish and wax mixed with the faint aroma of coffee brewing in the staff lounge. Marcus was walking past the main hall when he noticed Samuel kneeling in front of a small stack of flags. The janitor's movements were meticulous. Each fold was deliberate, precise, no corners bent, no creases out of place. Marcus stopped, his brow furrowed. He had seen soldiers fold flags hundreds of times in his career, yet this was different. There was a subtle confidence, a reverence that only came from knowing the cost of the flag, the cost it represented. Marcus approached quietly, careful not to disturb the scene. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and observed Samuel. "That's impressive," Marcus said softly, almost to himself. Samuel glanced up, eyes meeting Marcus's briefly. "Thank you, sir," he said simply. There was no boast, no story attached, just acknowledgement of the comment. Marcus frowned slightly, curiosity growing. "Where did you learn to fold like that?" he asked, genuinely intrigued. Samuel paused, then smiled faintly, almost apologetically. "I guess I just learned it a long time ago." Marcus's mind raced. There was something about Samuel, something disciplined, precise, and profoundly familiar. The way he held himself, the controlled breathing, even the set of his shoulders, it all screamed military training. But it wasn't just training, it was mastery. It was experience born from living under the weight of responsibility, danger, and consequence. Marcus spent the next few days observing Samuel more closely. He watched him sweep hallways, arrange chairs, and quietly assist veterans who struggled with mobility. Samuel never complained, never sought recognition, and never spoke of himself. Yet every motion carried grace, intention, and almost invisible heroism. Marcus, in contrast, was loud, recognized, and honored. his name and accomplishments widely known. Here, in this quiet hall, he felt a strange sense of envy. Samuel had earned something Marcus could not name yet. Not medals, not fame, not even applause. He had earned dignity. It was also the first time in weeks that Marcus felt alive again. He found himself looking forward to mornings at the center, to small conversations with Samuel, to watching him fold the flags just so. There was a quiet tension, building inside Marcus, a question he could not shake. Who is this man, really? One evening, as Marcus helped set up chairs for a small ceremony, Samuel quietly placed the folded flags in their racks. The motion was almost ritualistic, and Marcus could not stop himself from commenting. "You treat those flags like they're sacred," Marcus said, a trace of awe in his voice. "They are," Samuel replied softly. "Every fold matters." Marcus stared at him, sensing there was more beneath the calm exterior. He could almost see glimpses of a life he recognized but could not yet place. Precision under pressure, courage in silence, leadership without recognition. He left the center that night unsettled, a feeling gnawing at him that he had not experienced in decades. He had just met someone extraordinary, and he did not yet know it. That quiet tension, the subtle hint that Samuel was no ordinary janitor, set the stage for a revelation that would shake Marcus's understanding of heroism, humility, and the sacrifices hidden in plain sight. After his first days observing Samuel, Marcus could not shake a nagging feeling. There was something about the janitor's posture, the way he moved, and the silent authority in his actions that felt familiar. It reminded Marcus of soldiers he had trained, led, and sometimes buried. Marcus began watching Samuel more closely. The subtle way he adjusted a fallen chair, almost instinctively using leverage to prevent strain. The meticulous manner he arranged flags in the rack, as if each fold carried a story. The way he maintained eye contact when speaking to veterans, offering calm reassurance rather than condescension. One afternoon, while assisting with storage room inventory, Marcus asked casually, "You ever served, Samuel?" Samuel glanced up, almost startled. "I helped where I could," Marcus pressed gently. "Army? Navy?" "I supported," Samuel said quietly, sweeping the floor with deliberate motions. "Just support." The evasive answer only deepened Marcus's curiosity. Something about Samuel's bearing, his calm precision, and the intensity behind his quiet eyes told Marcus he was far from a just support role. Over the next few weeks, subtle hints began to emerge. During a flag-raising ceremony, Marcus noticed Samuel's salute. Fingers perfectly aligned, no hesitation. Back straight, shoulders squared, posture immaculate. A crisp snap of the wrist, precise and confident. It was a salute Marcus had seen thousands of times, the kind drilled into soldiers in the most intense situations. Later, during a conversation with a volunteer, Marcus overheard a snippet. "Samuel was in the field overseas," said the volunteer casually. "Didn't he receive some kind of honor?" Marcus froze. "What do you mean?" he asked, heart racing. "Oh, he never talks about it," the volunteer said. "Says it's not for him." Marcus's mind spun. A veteran, hidden in plain sight, choosing humility over recognition. He had seen pride, ego, and posturing in so many heroes before. But this was different. One evening, Marcus stayed late at the center, helping organize archives. Among folders of past ceremonies, awards, and veteran profiles, he noticed a small box labeled Medal of Honor recipients, local heroes. Curiosity overcame him. He opened it and found a thick folder filled with citations, photographs, and official records. One photo in particular made him catch his breath. It was Samuel, decades younger, in full combat gear, standing among soldiers with a resolute gaze. The caption beneath read, "Sergeant Samuel Brooks, Medal of Honor, Operation Silent Dawn, 1983." Marcus blinked, feeling a wave of disbelief, awe, and something deeper, humility. This quiet janitor, the man he had watched fold flags and quietly guide veterans, was the very soldier who had performed acts of heroism that earned the nation's highest honor. The next day, Marcus decided to approach Samuel. He found him in the back hall, sweeping with his usual precision. "Samuel," Marcus began carefully, "I saw something yesterday. I know who you are." Samuel froze, hand on the broom. His face remained calm, but there was a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. "I know about the Medal of Honor," Marcus continued. "I know what you did, and I have to ask, why keep it hidden?" Samuel lowered the broom slightly. "It wasn't about me," he said quietly. "It was never about me. It was for them, the men I lost, the ones who didn't make it home. The medal, it's theirs." Marcus felt a mix of admiration and frustration. He had met countless heroes in his career, but few carried such weight in silence. Yet here was a man who had literally faced death, saved lives, and chosen anonymity over fame. Marcus couldn't let it rest. He felt compelled to honor Samuel's story, yet he knew Samuel would resist publicity. A tension grew inside him, respect for Samuel's humility versus the desire to ensure his heroism is remembered. The community's right to know versus Samuel's personal wish for privacy. Every day, Marcus watched Samuel with renewed respect, folding flags, sweeping floors, and quietly guiding veterans. Each action reminded him that true heroism often hides in the smallest, most ordinary acts, the ones no one notices until the right person is paying attention. At the same time, Marcus felt a growing urgency. Samuel's story could inspire the next generation of soldiers and civilians alike. Could he convince Samuel to step into the light without betraying his humility? This tension, the balance between recognition and respect, set the stage for the emotional climax to come. The act ends with Marcus observing Samuel from across the hall, flags neatly stacked beside him. Marcus's thoughts are heavy, but clear. This man has given everything, and yet he stands among us, unnoticed. If anyone deserves to be seen, it is him. He knew that soon, Samuel's past could no longer remain a secret. But how it would be revealed, gently, respectfully, and powerfully, remained to be seen. A week after discovering Samuel's Medal of Honor record, Marcus found himself standing in the quiet hallway of the Veterans Center. Samuel was folding flags just as he had every morning, completely unaware of the storm brewing in Marcus's mind. "Samuel," Marcus began gently but with authority, "we need to talk." Samuel looked up, calm and composed. "About what, sir?" Marcus hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "About your story, the Medal of Honor. What you did overseas. People deserve to know." Samuel paused, lowering the flag in his hands. His eyes, dark and steady, met Marcus's. "I've lived with that story every day," he said quietly. "I don't need an audience to tell it. I did what any of us would have done." Marcus nodded, understanding his point, but firm. And yet this story could inspire countless people. Young soldiers, veterans, even civilians. They need to know the sacrifices you made. Samuel looked away, his hands tightening slightly around the flag. "I was one of many. If you speak of me, you speak for them all. That is the weight of it." Marcus felt a wave of admiration mixed with frustration. He had spent his entire career upholding honor and courage, yet here was a man who had embodied both in ways Marcus could scarcely imagine, and he hid it in plain sight. Every moment Samuel spent folding flags, helping veterans, and silently guiding others reminded Marcus why this story mattered. The veteran community deserved recognition for their sacrifices, and Samuel's humility should not erase history. He took a deep breath. "Samuel, I'm asking you, not as a former general, but as someone who knows what it means to serve. Please allow me to honor you, just once, for them, for your fallen brothers." The moment came unexpectedly during the Veterans Day ceremony at the center. Flags fluttered in the crisp autumn breeze, and a crowd of veterans, families, and local citizens gathered. Marcus stood at the podium, waiting for the right time. Samuel quietly moved the folded flags into place. Marcus caught his eye and gave a subtle nod, the first acknowledgement that Samuel's story would soon step into the light. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice calm but resonant, "today we honor not only our veterans, but a man who has lived among us quietly, performing acts of heroism most of us cannot imagine. A man who, for decades, has chosen humility over recognition." He paused, and the crowd's murmuring quieted. "Sergeant Samuel Brooks, Medal of Honor recipient, is here with us today." The audience gasped. Some veterans looked stunned, others whispered in awe. Samuel remained composed, but his eyes glimmered with emotion. A volunteer stepped forward to present the medal he had never publicly worn. Samuel accepted it with humility, bowing slightly. He addressed the crowd in a steady voice. "I did what any of my brothers and sisters in arms would have done. This medal is not mine alone. It belongs to the men and women who did not come home, whose courage never made headlines. I am honored to stand here, but I speak for them." Tears glistened in several veterans' eyes. Families of fallen soldiers whispered prayers. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. Here was the embodiment of true heroism, standing quietly, letting deeds speak louder than words. After the ceremony, the atmosphere at the center shifted. People approached Samuel, some shaking his hand, others bowing respectfully. Young soldiers asked questions, eager to learn from someone who had survived impossible odds. Veterans nodded in silent appreciation, their respect profound and genuine. Marcus watched from a distance, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. The story had been told, not for fame, not for glory, but for honor and remembrance. Samuel's humility remained intact, but his impact on the community had grown exponentially. Later that evening, the center was quiet. Samuel and Marcus sat, together on a bench outside, the stars beginning to shimmer in the clear sky. "You did well," Marcus said softly. "Better than you realize." Samuel smiled faintly, gaze fixed on the horizon. "I did what had to be done. The rest is not mine to hold." Marcus nodded, understanding completely. Sometimes the world needs a reminder that heroism exists in silence. Today, you reminded us all. A moment of comfortable silence passed. For once, Marcus felt a peace he hadn't known since retirement. Here was courage without ego, honor without arrogance, and humility that spoke louder than any medal. The day after the Veterans Day ceremony, the atmosphere at the Veterans Center was transformed. Where once Samuel had been a quiet presence, now he was greeted with smiles, handshakes, and gratitude. Veterans who had never spoken directly to him approached, some shaking, some tearful. Families of fallen soldiers thanked him for honoring their loved ones. Even young volunteers, previously unaware of his story, stopped in awe when they realized the man sweeping the floors was a Medal of Honor recipient. Marcus observed the interactions with quiet satisfaction. Samuel had never sought recognition, yet the respect he had earned through decades of courage and humility now radiated naturally. Despite the newfound attention, Samuel did not change. He continued arriving early to clean, fold flags, and quietly guide veterans. But there was a difference. Now, people looked at him with understanding rather than indifference. During a small gathering of local schoolchildren visiting the center, Samuel patiently explained the meaning of the flag folds, the importance of honor, and the stories of bravery behind every medal. The children listened wide-eyed, inspired by a man who had faced death and chosen humility above all else. Marcus watched from across the room, reflecting on the lessons Samuel had taught not through words, but through decades of silent dedication. That evening, Marcus and Samuel sat together outside the center, the sunset casting a warm glow across the courtyard. "You've changed a lot of lives," Marcus said softly. Samuel shook his head. "I just tried to do my part. The rest is up to them." Marcus smiled. "No, Samuel. You remind people what true courage is. Not the medals, not the headlines, but the quiet acts, the sacrifices no one sees. Today, you've shown that to everyone. Samuel's eyes softened. Maybe it's time they see it. They sat in silence, watching the last rays of the sun disappear, the center now alive with laughter, gratitude, and a renewed sense of community. In the weeks that followed, Samuel's story quietly spread throughout the local community. Young veterans sought guidance from him. Volunteers came to learn from his disciplined yet humble approach. Students from nearby schools visited to hear firsthand the tales of courage, sacrifice, and humility. He became a symbol not of fame, but of integrity and selfless service. The Medal of Honor, once hidden, had sparked a wave of respect, inspiration, and education that reached far beyond the walls of the center. Marcus, witnessing the ripple effect, finally understood what he had been missing since retiring. Purpose was not measured by rank or accolades. It was measured by the lives touched, the lessons shared, and the courage quietly displayed. One crisp evening, Samuel folded the flags on the porch of the center one last time for the day. Marcus joined him, both men silent, watching the twilight settle over the grounds. "Thank you," Marcus said simply. Samuel nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "No thanks needed. We all do what we must." Marcus looked at him, understanding at last that heroism did not always seek recognition, and sometimes the greatest courage is lived quietly, unseen by the world, until the moment the world is ready to notice. As the stars emerged overhead, Samuel folded the final flag, placing it carefully in the rack, and turned to leave. A janitor to most, a legend to those who truly saw him.